Hi, my name is Abby Sammons, and I will be ranking and explaining my top 5 favorite psychology studies. In number 5, we have the Bobo doll study. Albert Bandura was a professor at Stanford University and was interested in the social learning theory, more specifically aggression. How do you define aggression, and why do people act in such aggressive ways? Social learning theorists believe that human interaction plays a big role in human personality. He believed that behavior can be shaped by modeling, which is why roles such as parents and teachers are so important to children. Bandura, Ross, and Ross wanted to know whether learning would generalize when the child was separated from the model. They selected 36 girls and 36 boys from the Stanford University nursery between the ages of 3 and 6, which was then split into 3 groups. One group watched the adults behave aggressively towards the Bobo doll, another group watched them play non-aggressively, and the third group was just shown the Bobo doll alone. After observing, the children were taken into a room with aggressive and non-aggressive toys and were studied on their playing patterns. Overall, Bandura concluded that the children who watched the aggressive adults imitated these aggressive responses. He also found that females were more physically aggressive after watching a male, more verbally aggressive after watching a female. And number 4, we have Little Albert. Watson believed that if a stimulus automatically produces a certain emotion and that stimulus is repeated at the same time as something else, they will become associated. For example, he said that we are not born to fear rats, but it is learned through conditioning. Little Albert was a 9-month-old orphan who was used for the study, and he was judged to be very healthy physically and mentally. He was presented with a white rat, a rabbit, a monkey, a dog, masked with and without hair, and white cotton wool, but he showed no fear to these neutral stimuli. A steel bar that was struck with a hammer was the unconditioned stimulus, as humans exhibit fear to loud, sudden noises. Albert was presented with a white rat, and when he went to touch it, the metal bar was struck. After 7 pairings, Albert became extremely fearful of the rat. Albert was also afraid of the white rabbit, even though he had never been conditioned to fear the white rabbit. The fear to all these objects existed in different locations and even months later. Watson planned to recondition Albert, but as far as everyone knows, this never happened. Watson knew this experiment had questionable ethical reasonings, but continued anyways. And number 3, we have To Help or Not to Help. The study began when Kenny Genevieve was viciously attacked in New York when she was on her way home from work. The attack lasted 35 minutes and 38 people witnessed the attack, but only one person called the cops, and by the time they arrived, she was already dead. Darley and Lante theorized that a large group of bystanders decreased the willingness for someone to help. They believed that no one stepped in because of diffusion of responsibility, which means that people did not help because they thought someone else would. Darley and Lante told psychology students they were going to talk about life at a highly competitive university. This was a setup for an emergency situation, which was a recording of someone having a seizure. The participants were also told there were either 2, 3, or 5 other people on the intercom. When the participants thought the number of other participants increased, the percentage that reported the attack as it was happening decreased. This strongly supported the researchers' hypothesis. And number 2, we have the Stanford Prison Experiment. Zimbardo was a Stanford professor who created a prison in the basement of the psychology building to test his belief that the environment and situation a person is in determines how you behave over who you actually are. 24 normal college men were selected and flipped a coin to see whether they were a prisoner or a guard. The prisoners were arrested, searched, handcuffs, fingerprinted, and put into a holding cell and then taken to the prison, which they stayed the entire experiment. The guards worked 8-hour shifts and lived their normal lives while not on duty. They were given no instruction other than to keep the prisoners in line and maintain order. Soon the roles began to take over, and the guards tormented the prisoners. Even Zimbardo said he began to feel like a prison superintendent. The study was supposed to last for 2 weeks, but ended after 6 days because the prison became so powerful it began to turn into reality.
I'm in charge of you. I want you to dunk, or else you'll die. Clean it!
Our number one spot is obey at any cost. Logan was inspired to do the study because he wanted to know how people can harm others simply because they are told to. Logan believed that in some situations, the human desire to obey is so powerful that a person loses the ability to behave morally, ethically, or sympathetically. He wanted to create a study in which people thought they were harming another individual without them actually getting hurt. Logan designed a scary-looking shock generator with a voltage level starting at 30 and going up to 450. The participants were 40 males between the age of 20 and 50 who were told they were doing a memory study for Yale. They were paid to be in the study, but were told they could keep the money no matter what. The learner was tested on their memory on pairs of words. If they got the question wrong, the teacher would shock them, moving up in voltage each time they got a question wrong. The learner, who was just acting, started to shout, pound the wall, and demand to be let out. 14 people defied orders, but 26 of the 40 of the participants went all the way to the highest shock. The participants became very stressed and angry at the experimenter, yet they obeyed. Shock him.
Jeez Louise.
Go again.
What the heck, man?
Go again.
Ah! I don't think I want to do this no more.
Keep going.
Ah!